Well, in my lecture today, I'm going to be talking about what young men and women think about their work experiences now and what they feel they need to succeed at work in the future. And not just succeed at work, but succeed at having families as well. So it's young men and women, the future of work and family. The key themes that we find are that women particularly want respect at work, both men and women want security at work, and both men and women want good pay at work. Now, this may not be surprising, but it is interesting to see how strongly those themes come through. So what we find with our results is that particularly young women, they acknowledge that there is going to be a real transformation in work practices, that there is increasing automation of the workforce and the workplace. And interestingly, they don't see that as the threat so much. What they see as the threat is the ability of other people to do their work at a lower wage rate. So this becomes an issue really of regulation rather than automation. And we think that's very important to understand. In relation to the gig economy, the debates in Australia are very similar to the debates I hear in the United Kingdom, and they are about how do we successfully regulate those jobs so that people know their hours of work, that they're being paid appropriately, and what work is it that they're doing. What we find in Australia is that many people who work in what we call the platform economy or the gig economy do that as a second or third job. It's not necessarily their first job, but it is rapidly emerging as an area of concern. Of big concern in Australia is the issue of wage theft. Are these people being paid appropriately? Are they being paid according to our wage laws? And do they work under the conditions of employment that our national employment standards set? There are many common themes that I see between Europe, the UK and Australia. I do a lot of work around gender and work as well, and so the big themes there are how do we ensure that women's pay gap, hours gap and pension gaps don't widen? How do we keep them? How do we narrow them? And that's a big issue in Australia, and I know it's a similar issue here. We have issues about how do we ensure that men have the opportunity to share the care? How do they have access to parental leave? And do we have workplaces where men are not stigmatised for using parental leave policies? So there's a lot of overlap in our countries about those concerns and the research we're doing. How can we shift that, what we call the gender norms and gender behaviours? Well, we do know from research that policy does matter, but policy has to be really specifically directed to those people who we want to take the leave. So, policies that say this leave is only for men or it's at replacement rates, you won't be stigmatised, your promotion won't be affected or penalised. They're the issues we need to ensure. We need to guarantee men's continuity at work, if you like. Now, where does that leadership come from? A lot of it comes from the organisation itself. We can have government policies that set the standards, but what goes on in the workplace is really critical. And we know from the research that good management, leadership from the top, ensuring that people are not penalised for taking leaves is very important.